Hello friends, myself Smita, and today we will learn about interest calculation in TallyPrime. How to calculate interest in TallyPrime, how to find out the interest payable amount as well as interest receivable amount. All these things we will learn in this session. So let's start with interest calculation. Interest is charged on delayed payments as well as on the loan amount. If you borrow money, in that case, the money borrowed needs to be repaid back along with the interest amount. Also, if the goods are sold to the customers and on credit, and if the money receivable from them is not received on time, in that case, we can charge interest to our debtors. Same way, creditors can charge interest to us for delayed payment. So, interest is charged on delayed payments as well as on the loan. It can be simple or compound. Simple interest is just calculate the interest for the amount on the amount at the rate of the percentage given. And compound interest will be interest on interest amount. Means the principal amounts get added with the interest amount, and then again for the next year we calculate the interest on this added amount also. So that is a compound interest. Tally facilitates both simple as well as compound interest calculation. So it enables us to select whether we want to calculate simple interest or compound interest. Interest payable. Interest payable is the amount which an individual or company owes a lender at a particular time. So let's start with interest payable. Interest payable is the amount that a company owes to the person who lended us the money. Suppose we have taken a loan from Bajaj Finance. So in that case, the interest charge on such amount is interest payable. So again, if we purchase the goods from our supplier or creditor and we cannot pay the amount of invoice on the before the due date or on the date of the invoice or whatever the contract whichever contract was signed between we and our creditor. If we delay the payment, the creditor will obviously ask us to pay the interest. So for that interest will be interest payable for us. So how to activate interest payable in Tally? Let's start with the example. Suppose we have taken a loan from Bajaj Finance. So normally what if you take the loan from any financial institution, entry will be in the voucher, receipt voucher. We will enter the in receipt voucher as bank account debit to loan from suppose Bajaj Finance. So entry will be bank account debit to loan from Bajaj Finance. But as we need to calculate interest on the loan amount which we have taken, we first need to activate interest calculation for our company in the Tally. So the first step is go to company features by pressing F11 and activate enable interest calculation. So before entering the voucher, we will open our features screen. F11, press F11 and there enable interest calculation. Enable this question, press yes, press Ctrl A to save the features. And now the next step is create ledger. Which ledger we will create? Loan from the money lender, that is loan from Bajaj Finance, and activate the following feature. As we have activated interest calculation for our company in Tally, again when we will create the loans ledger, there also we need to activate the interest calculation. So let's start with creating the ledger. So select create ledger loan from Bajaj Finance. Enter. Just a minute. It was a duplicate ledger. I've cancelled that ledger. I've deleted the ledger. Now we will create ledger loan from Bajaj Finance. Now, as we have taken loan, it's a this ledger will comes under loan. It's a liability for us, and then we will activate interest calculation. Activate interest calculation. Enable this question. Second screen will appear. If you don't see such a big screen, what we have to do? Go to configuration, press F12 and activate this. Suppose if this is no, you there it might be no, and your screen will be like this. So activate that advanced parameters. Go to F12, advanced parameters for interest, activate them. You will get big screen for entering interest parameters. The first question is include transaction date for interest calculation. Suppose if you want to enter the transaction date for each and every interest calculation, in that case, we need to enable this question. Well, for this example, I am keeping it as no. In the next example, when it is related to interest receivable, we will activate the same in that example. So we will come to know the difference between how it works, whether if you keep it no and if you keep the things as yes. So at present I am keeping it no. What will happen? It will not allow to provide transactions date at the interest calculation. So we don't want the this questions to be activated. So I am keeping them no. Suppose we have taken a loan of suppose say 2,50,000 from Bajaj Finance, and Bajaj Finance will charge, for example, 10% rate. So rate will be 10% per. So whether it is yearly basis or monthly basis, 10% is monthly or yearly, that we have to select whatever the conditions from Bajaj Finance, the conditions provided or conditions that we have signed while borrowing the money, that we will select. So suppose we have borrowed money for at the rate of 10% interest per year. So I am selecting calendar year. Now, whether all the balances will be there or credit balances or debit balances. So interest will get charged on what type of balances. See, when we enter the transaction of loan borrowing, the transaction will be bank account debit to loan from Bajaj Finance. So in this entry, we credit that particular ledger, that is loan from Bajaj Finance. And here we are providing interest parameter for loan from Bajaj Finance ledger. So in the money borrowed entry, we give credit to this particular ledger. So that's why I'm selecting it credit balance only. So this is credit balance only. And now it is asking from which date to which date 10% will get calculated or it will get charged. Suppose applicable from, I'm giving the date 1st of April, from 1st of April to 30th, 1st of October, we will charge 10% of interest, and whatever the calculations are there, if it comes in paisa, whether you want to round it or not. So whether you can if you want to round it, you can go for downward rounding, normal rounding, or upward rounding, or you can keep the money as it is, you can keep the calculation as it is. So I'm not enabling the rounding way, I'm keeping it as not applicable. Okay, then after 1st of October, the interest will get charged 12%. Again, it is yearly basis on calendar year, all credit balances from 2nd of October to, you can give the next date, or if you keep it blank, you can alter the same once again when you open this ledger, provide another date after 2nd October. So at present, I'm keeping it no as blank. Enter, enter, enter. Rest of the things as it is. Press Ctrl A to save. Now, so we have created the ledger loan from Bajaj Finance and activated interest calculation. Also provided all the interest parameters. We have provided all the details regarding interest to be charged by allowing advanced parameters through configuration. Now, first we will enter the transaction. As we have borrowed money on 1st of April, I am keeping it as a 1st of April. As we have received money, we will enter the transaction through receipt voucher. So press F6. Entry will be bank account debit to loan from Bajaj Finance. So it is asking for credit card. So it will be a loan from Bajaj Finance. Suppose we have borrowed 2,50,000. Debit will go to Axis Bank. Enter. As we have selected the bank, it will ask the bank allocation details. So whatever the details you have, you can input the data, and narration being money borrowed or we have taken a loan. So this is how we can enter the transaction of money borrowed. Next step. Now check the interest which is payable to Bajaj Finance. How to check the interest amount? Go to Gateway of Tally, display more reports, statement of accounts, and select interest payable. So let's check. Go to display more reports, Gateway of Tally, display more reports, statement of accounts, interest calculation, and interest payable. As we have taken borrowed money, we will pay the interest. So it is payable for us. Enter. See, this is the screen of interest payable. We have taken a loan from Bajaj Finance, right? So loan from Bajaj Finance. This is the screen which is giving information about loans and liability ledger of our company from 1st of April to 1st of September. If you want to change the period, you can change by pressing Alt F2. And the closing balance, that is loan amount and interest to be charged, interest payable rather. So on 2,50,000 from 1st of April to 1st of September, it gets 10,450.82. We have not selected the rounding up method, so it is showing in decimals also. So amount of interest will be 10,450. If you press enter, it will give the details. Again press enter. Just a minute. It is showing from first, it is skipping the first date on which we have borrowed money from 2nd April, 1st of September. Total 153 days are there. At the rate of 10%, it gets 10,450.82. I'm pressing escape. Suppose if you change the period, Alt F2, press Alt F2 from 1st of April to, suppose I want to calculate the interest payable till 31st of 12. See, the amount gets changed. It becomes 19,000. Press enter for details. It is giving the details that on 2,50,000 from 2nd April to 1st of October, total days are 183 days and 10% per annum is the interest rate. So for 183 days, it comes around 12,500. and after that, that is from 2nd October to the date that we have given, that is 31st December, total days comes to 91 days, and for those days we charge interest, that Bajaj Finance charging interest at the rate of 12%. So that amount comes to 7459.02. So total amount of interest payable will be 19959.02. Now we will pay, suppose on 31st of December we are paying the amount, we will copy this amount, or we can say we will, and just write it down, 19 5 sorry 19959.02 is the amount. I'm just pressing Ctrl C, and now when we will pay that interest on 31st of December. So press payment voucher, date will be 31st December, and entry will be interest to that Bajaj Finance. So interest account debit to interest payable account debit to Bajaj Finance. So we have to create new ledger, interest payable. It will be our indirect expense, or we can say payable. You can say it is current liability also, because we have not yet paid current liability. Rest of the thing as it is, press Ctrl 8 for saving. The amount is 19959.02. Two, here we will not select loan from that party. We have to create new ledger, Bajaj Finance, and this is our creditor to whom we will pay. Rest of the thing as it is, press Ctrl A. So this will be the entry on account I'm selecting. I've not created any ledger for this, and narration will be being interest payable to the party for loan borrowed till 31st of December. So this is how we can enter the thing. Next, interest receivable. Now we will go for interest receivable part. Interest receivable will be our income. Interest receivable is the money earned on the investments. If you have kept money in the bank or invested somewhere, you will receive the interest, or revenue receivable for delayed payments from the customers. The goods sold on credit and the customers or debtors do not pay on time. In that case, we charge interest for delayed payment. So interest receivable is the earned money on investment or revenue receivable from the for debtors for from the customers for delayed payments. So let's start with the example. Suppose we sold goods to the customer, and the customer do not pay us on time, and for that we will charge the interest. So this is the story. Let's start solving this story. First of all, what we have to do, we have to enter the sales entry. So before sales entry, always our first step will be go to F11 and activate this interest calculation. We have already enabled this. If you are not enabled, go for activating this question. Press Ctrl A, save the same. Next, we have to create the what we have done. We have activated the interest calculation feature. Now, before entering the sales voucher, we have to do some changes in the sales voucher. We have to alter the sales voucher. See, when we enter the sales voucher, I'm opening the sales voucher. Press F8. See, in this sales voucher, it is the numbering of the sales voucher is automatic. Before we have already entered 9 vouchers, sales voucher, and this is the 10th voucher. But I don't want this automatic numbering over here. I would like to change this numbering to manual numbering, so that while giving the reference to the bill number, it will take the number that we have supplied as a sales invoice number. And for that, we have to alter the sales voucher type. So go to alter voucher type. Which voucher? Sales voucher. So select sales, and here method of voucher numbering, as by default it is automatic, we will select it as a manual one. So manual one will be the method of vouchering. Yes, it giving us a warning message. Changing this method of vouchering, voucher numbering will affect the voucher numbers of existing transaction. Okay, no problem, then continue. Okay, and press Control A. So we have altered the sales voucher, we have activated feature of enable interest calculation. The next step is create details ledger for providing and provide the interest parameters. So we will create new data ledger alpha distributors private limited. This is our data. Pricing level not applicable. Maintain bill by bill details, yes. And now and also we will provide a default credit period. Suppose we are offering 15 days credit period, so from the date of due date, from the date of invoice date, it will give 15 days as a due date, and next, from the next date of the due date, it will start calculating the interest. So default credit period we are providing 15, and then activate this interest calculation, yes. Now here are the interest parameter. Again, if it is not showing the big screen for interest parameters, go to F12 and change it to use advanced interest parameter to yes. I have already activated this question. So here we have to provide the interest parameters. So let's provide interest parameter. First question is calculate interest transaction by transaction. Yes, as this is the data, we will sell to this data for number of times. So for every transaction, for every sales voucher, we need to calculate the interest separately. So yes, calculate interest transaction by transaction. Yes. Then override parameters for each transaction. Suppose for any special transaction, there might be a discussion between we and our data that ignore this percentage, or ignore the interest for this particular transaction, for this sales, whatever. So if this can happen in future, we should get allowed to change the interest rate at entry level also for each and every transaction. So override parameters for each transaction, yes. If this is enabled, we can change the interest parameter for a particular entry. And override advanced parameter, yes, we need advanced parameters at the entry level, so while entering the transaction. So yes. Next, include transaction date for interest calculation. Again, yes, I want to include the transaction date for interest calculation for amounts added and amount deducted. What do you mean by amounts added? The amounts get added means for every transaction, for every credit we provide to the debtor, the amounts get added. When that customer pays us, the amount gets deducted. So like this, it is enabled for both, for amounts added and amounts deducted. Now what will be the interest rate? Suppose we are charging just a 1% per, it is monthly basis, and that too depending on the calendar month. If the month is of 31 days or 31st 30 days or 28 29, it depends on the calendar month only. So 1% will be charged as per calendar month. On what type of balances? Here we will select all the balances, because when we sales the products to the debtor, the entry will be debtors account debit to sales, right? So in that case, debit side is for the debtors ledger. But when goods are returned, the entry will be sales return to debtors. So in that case, debtors account will get credited. So we don't want only debit side or credit side to be calculated with this interest rate. We need both the balances of the debtors should get considered while calculating the interest. So I'm selecting all the balances. Then applicable from always or past due date. If you select past due date, it will ask for the due date, or go for always and then select the due date of the invoice. Select calculation from. The list available is date of applicability. If you select this option, it asks for the date from which date the interest will get charged, date of specified date that specified during entry. Here, if you select date of applicability, so after selecting this option, in this screen itself it asks for the date, and if you select this option date specified during entry, it asks the date for that particular transaction. Whenever you will enter the transaction of sales for that particular transaction, what will be the date it will ask while entering that transaction. Then due date of the invoice, as we have given 15 days in due date, it will start calculating from the 16th day of the invoice. And effective date of transaction, the date of transaction on which date the sales occurred, that date will be considered for calculating the interest calculation. So generally it is due date of invoice. Rounding, again, if you go for rounding, select the options available and keeping it as it is, that is not applicable. And okay, we are not overriding the parameters of interest calculation. Give other details and press Ctrl A. The next part is now provide all the details that we have already given. Now pass the sales transaction. Let's provide or enter the sales transaction. Go to vouchers. It is sales transaction. See, as we have altered the sales voucher, it is asking for the sales voucher number. So sales voucher number is invoice 100 numbers invoice it is, and we have sold goods on 1st of April to Alpha Distribute. Just a minute. Alpha Distributors Private Limited. Select the dispatch details, give the dispatch details, party details, price level not applicable, sales ledger will be sales account, and we are selling LG 4K Ultra HD. Enter, enter. We have 7 pieces at NG Road, so we are selling 2 pieces. 35,600 is the rate, so total amount of bill will be 71,200. As we have enabled interest calculation, after this item allocation window, enter. After the item allocation window and providing all the list of all the goods that we have supplied, we comes to our cursor comes on the total amount. So total amount is 71,200. Here we give the new reference, which is the invoice number 100, and see, by default we have given the 15 days. So our cursor jumped from there. It is not allowing us to change the due date. Enter. So due date will be the date of transaction is 1st of April. 15 days due days are provided, and from 16th April interest will get charged. Enter. Next window will come where we can provide the interest parameters for this particular entry. If you want to change the percentage or any parameter, you can change for this particular entry only. So first I'm keeping it as it is, just pressing enter key everywhere. Enter, enter being goods sold, enter. So we have entered the sales transaction. Now we will check the report. Check interest receivable. How to check? Gateway of Tally, display more reports, statement of accounts, interest receivable. So go to display more reports, statement of accounts, interest calculation, interest receivable. See, it is giving the interest amount 3238.45 for the period 1st of April to 1st of September. Just change the period from 1st of April. Suppose we are the today's date is 31st 12. So till this date we need to find out the interest. So it is 6063. Enter sundry debtors. It will give the details also. It is showing the details. The invoice amount was 71,200 from 16th April to 31st December. Total days around arrives to 260 days. Interest is 1% per month, and amount of interest will be 606348. Now what we have to do? We have to enter the interest receivable entry. How to enter this entry? For that we have to enter a debit note. Why debit note? Because for collecting extra amount from the debtors without selling, without using the sales invoice, we can enter the same through debit note only. So go to other vouchers, press Alt F6, Alt F5, enter, and this is the debit note. First, we have to change it to interest calculation mode. So Control H, press Control H from your keyboard and use this debit note for interest calculation. And amounts to be treated as compound interest or simple interest. I'm keeping it as compound, yes. On which date we are calculating? Suppose this is 31st of December. I will change the date. From whom we will collect the amount? Interest receivable will be from Alpha Distributors. Enter. See, the amount is 3238. Just a minute. Voucher 31st 12. And now I'm keeping it as a Control H, interest calculation. Override the parameters with compound interest. Debit Alpha Distributors 3238. Select the amount, invoice, whatever the row is available, select the same. Tracking is not available, and credit will go to interest receivable. It is our current asset. So amount of interest will be interest receivable. So being debit note created for interest receivable. We will just check the ledger, display more reports, accounts book, ledger, Alpha Distributors 3238. The debit note is up to 31st December. Now we will check the report again. Go to statement of accounts, interest calculation, interest receivable. See, till 31st December we have calculated the interest, we have created the debit note, so it is not showing any amount as the interest receivable in this part. If you change the date from 1st of, after that 31st December, that is 1st of Jan to suppose 1st of February, it will show the interest receivable for that period only. That is from 1st of Jan to 31st of February, 32 days at the rate of 1% per annum per month, 770 rupees. So this is how interest receivable is activated, and that feature is used in Tally. Now the next part is aging analysis. As we know, the outstanding balances of debtors and creditors are always there. So we need to check the amount which is outstanding from how many days. This is known as the aging analysis. So go to display more reports, statement of accounts, outstanding, whether you are selecting going for receivable or payable amounts. So receivable, I have these two datas, novelty mobile shopping and alpha distributor. And I would like to check the aging analysis. At present, the report is from 1st of April to 31st December. Alpha distributors and novelty mobile Shopee are these two are the daters, and total outstanding amount is 74,438, 35,600. Okay, now I would like to see how many days are there there, or from how many days it is due. For that, at this screen, we have to press F6. Press F6 from your keyboard, and aging analysis methods are available. Aging analysis by bill date or due date, whatever you can analyze this outstanding date of the depending on your invoice date or the due date provided for each and every entry. So I am selecting bill wise details. Then it asks for from how many days to how many days. So from 0 to 30, there will be a column where all the data ranging within this due date will be listed. 30 to 60, 60 to, suppose I'm selecting it as a 200, 150, 150 to 200, and 200 to above. Like this, you can change the parameters, enter, accept, and see. So alpha distributors are outstanding, the amount is outstanding for more than 200 days. And for novelty mobile Shopee, the outstanding amount is just from 60 to 150 days. If you press enter, you can find out the details of the invoice date, amount of that invoice, everything will get provided. Even the debit note that we have charged. It will show all the details of the debtors as well as for the creditors. Select the payable part. Here are the all creditors. Just press Alt F6 here. Aging by bill date. Again, you can use the same parameters or change the same. I'm pressing Control A. So all are, our amount is outstanding for more than 200 days. All the dates, all the creditors are payable. The amount is payable. Total amount is 41,000, 41 lakhs 96,000. This is how we can find out the outstanding age wise. So just go through the interest calculation and the outstanding reports age wise. Thank you for the day. Thank you.